And a very happy Friday to you at 12:08 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's across the glass.
John, LA City Council meeting public comments give us a lot of very interesting characters. There's the guy with the goat puppet. There's the guy who sings karaoke. There's the woman that does slam poetry. But every once in a while, you just get a straight up insane person. And I don't even know how to set this clip up. You have 1 minute.
Speaker, you have 1 minute.
General public comments. Little black boy children have been told for years, they're 3 to 5 years old, to touch your sister. People have been telling them that for years, touch your sister. This is not right. It's not right. It makes us stupid. They should not be told to touch your sister for any reason. And I hope it stops really quick. It makes us stupid.
Well, I can understand why you had a hard time setting that one up.
Like every 6 months, this woman comes to the stage, and when she opens her mouth, nobody knows where she's going with it.
That council really is the psych ward. And we wonder why the city can't do anything right.
This city probably has per capita more insane people than anywhere else in the country. So, of course, the city council meetings have to reflect that.
There's insane as in having boutique political beliefs and you want to do dangerous things with the power of the government. I don't think these people have any real ideas in terms of how the government should be run. I think they're just clinical. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, we know it's been a long time since COVID has been a thing, although if you pay attention to the public health people, there's a spike in California.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about. We'll get to you later on in the program.
Next slide.
However, governments are still blaming a lot of their problems on COVID. And get this, in San Francisco, the city and county of San Francisco is trying to stick their homeless bill to the federal government in the name of COVID. They expected Grampy Joe to get elected, or then Kamala Harris to get elected, and a Democrat to give a wink, wink, nod, nod, we'll give you the check. And then a funny thing happened. Donald Trump got elected. There's no money from Washington, and now San Francisco is panicking.
It's actually worse than that, Johnny. When the city of San Francisco asked to be reimbursed for putting all the bums in hotels during COVID, it was Biden's FEMA that said, no, we're not paying for that.
That was one bridge too far for Grampy Joe?
FEMA said, we're not reimbursing you in 2023 for the hotel stays of 2020 and 2021 and the liability that ensued afterwards because those hotels were not kept in the best manner with the clientele they put in there.
Do you know how insane you have to be to trash a hotel room worse than Metallica?
For more on this fight that's going on between San Francisco and the federal government, here is ABC7 and their incredible reporter, Leanne Melendez.
Well, it's August 2025, and the pandemic is long gone, except for that big bill left over for housing homeless people.
Yes.
What do you think they did to the ice machine?
You don't want to know.
Yeah, San Francisco spent $409 million on hotel rooms alone to keep people from contracting COVID. But FEMA...
And instead, they didn't get COVID, but they did all overdose.
And they got the plague, too. At least some of them.
But FEMA has refused to pay up despite guarantees previously made to reimburse the city.
So it's a big tab, obviously. Yep. ABC7.
And this is part of the problem that we have with our current system of disaster reimbursement. And we saw this where Los Angeles wanted a blank check for all of the fire recovery. Is they will spend all this money on nonsense thinking, well, the Fed's going to pick up the tab.
Well, if the Fed doesn't pick up the tab, then guess what? you're broke.
So it's a big tab, obviously. Yep. ABC 7 News Building a Better Bay Area reporter Leanne Melendez has more on what she uncovered looking into this.
Yeah, and 2020 seems like such a long time ago, doesn't it? Yeah, and of course city officials are saying...
I was like 50 pounds heavier.
I was like 50 pounds lighter.
Yeah, most people... They gained their weight during COVID.
Maybe we should have done things differently. Well, you never know.
It was a panic time.
Right. Exactly. They say hindsight is 20/20, and you can't really blame San Francisco for trying to do the right thing during COVID.
I don't know about that.
No, they were trying to find a way to solve their homeless problem without having to pay for it.
The city spent millions of dollars thinking, we're not going to pay for this because the federal government is. And here we are, left with a big portion of the bill. And yes, some are asking, did San Francisco city officials have to keep people in hotels for as long as they did?
No, they did not.
But if they kept them in the hotels on the federal government's dime, then it made it seem like they were putting a dent in the homeless problem and they didn't have to look at them when they're walking down the streets.
London Brady was probably going to the mailbox every day thinking that check was coming. Today's the day. Today's the day.
Make that money.
It never came.
No check from the feds. However, in due time, you will start to get those Bed Bath & Beyond coupons again.
Not in California.
That's true.
Let's unclog your memory. In April 2020, homeless advocates demanded that people living in shelters...
By the way, your first mistake as a representative for local government is listening to homeless advocates. If they were real advocates for the homeless, how many bums are they housing?
Anytime they call you, just send them straight to voicemail.
In April 2020, homeless advocates demanded that people living in shelters and on the streets be moved into hotels and given private rooms.
It makes sense.
Do you remember the early days of 2020 when this was already going on in San Francisco and the same idea was being talked about in Los Angeles because the hotels were not allowed to book guests. The entire city was locked down. And then LA City Councilman Meth Bonin claimed that, you know what, we're going to wait for the Ritz-Carlton to go out of business and then we can buy it for a song and turn it into a homeless shelter.
That was the first place they started, the Ritz-Carlton.
It makes sense to put people in hotel rooms now.
Lunchtime. ABC 7 News was among the first to visit one of these hotels occupied back then by homeless people. The city agreed.
By the way, you notice how the pretense is over, at least in the Bay Area, where they're not calling these people the unhoused?
Well, you know, if you work at a hotel, how you can figure out that your entire clientele is on meth?
How's that?
You have to do a bunch of wake-up calls at 3 p.m.
Occupied back then by homeless people. The city agreed that it was a way to try to stop the spread of COVID, except that for those with a drug addiction, there seemed to be little concern with social distancing.
Oh, I'm sure these people would just stay in their rooms.
Yeah, hard to believe they're not sticklers for health.
And weren't some of the hotel rooms in San Francisco, people were demanding we deliver to their door alcohol and drugs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, room service for everything.
As I have photos in my book on the Tenderloin, at Turk and Hyde, the drug dealers and drug users, they were next door and they would hang out with each other, not with 1 foot away.
Randy Shaw is the director of the Tenderloin Housing Clinic and saw firsthand how in many of these hotels, people were practically left unattended.
When you put somebody who is using drugs in a hotel, what could be the outcome?
I think exactly what it was.
They come out in a body bag.
And no one's up in time for that Hampton Inn complimentary breakfast. Not a waffle was eaten.
Well, and this has been the case in San Francisco ever since this decision in COVID. The majority of the overdose deaths are not on the streets of the Tenderloin or in the Mission. They're inside the SRO housing given to the homeless because there's no way to stop them from bringing drugs in there.
Because the official position of the politicians in California is that we have a homeless problem because of the high cost of living. So if these people are on the streets because it's so expensive to live here, then you don't need to check up on them to make sure that they didn't overdose.
San Francisco saw a dramatic increase in the number of unintentional overdose deaths in 2020, more than the previous 2 years combined.
And it created the biggest drug crisis San Francisco's ever had, and we still haven't recovered from it. In the hotels, there was no restriction, so it was ridiculous.
These bums would have been better off with COVID.
Yeah, no kidding.
And the city spent millions.
$409 million to house more than 3,300 people.
That doesn't add up.
Wait, go through those numbers one more time.
$409 million to house more than 3,300 people.
$409 million, 409.
409,000,000 divided by 3300. It cost $123,000 per bum to house them in the hotels during COVID.
You know what you could do with that amount of money?
What's that?
A lot. And not paying for a bunch of bums to destroy a bunch of hotel rooms. Because if that's what we paid to rent the rooms, how much did it cost to fix them after they lit them all on fire?
Story's not over.
$409 million to house more than 3,300 people in 25 hotels across the city, according to the city attorney.
What kind of room rates were those?
Yeah, that sounds like price gouging to me.
Maybe the homeless had diamond status and they got an upgrade.
According to the city attorney's office, the program ended in December 2020, and FEMA, which is meant to respond to these kinds of emergencies, promised to reimburse San Francisco. But in October 2023, in a letter, FEMA unexpectedly told every city in California that because the first dose of the COVID vaccine had been given by June 2021 to reduce the spread of the virus, some reimbursements after that date would not be honored.
Uh-oh.
So it looks like you can't stick the bill to the federal government after all.
And this was Biden's FEMA that said, no, we're not paying for that.
You're doing a heck of a job, Brownie.
At any point, did FEMA say to you, at a certain point, you have to stop? We're not going to give you any more money.
No. We were surprised to receive that letter. We had thought and hoped it was a misunderstanding because during the time period when we were providing that non-congregate shelter, we were under the very clear understanding that we were doing this work with the support of the federal government.
If you give the locals a credit card backed by the feds, they will spend it on anything and everything. It doesn't matter. You want to know why the high-speed rail was such a disaster? It's because it had matching federal funds 1-to-1 originally.
I would almost be willing to give up my job and go to work for the federal government, to work for FEMA, if I could be the guy that could contact all of these local governments and say to each and every one of them, no money for you.
That would be satisfying, but I think you get more vacation time here.
That's true.
You got to weigh your options. More cruises or denying people money?
Oh, both are hobbies.
Under the very clear understanding that we were doing this work with the support of the federal government and that we would be reimbursed 100%.
There were other COVID-related expenses that added another $80 million to the city's costs.
And when we come back, we'll find out exactly what those were as we continue with this incredible piece by ABC7's Leanne Melendez of the hundreds of millions of dollars that San Francisco is not getting from the feds for shoving all the homeless with their drugs in hotels during COVID.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Michael writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. John would be the FEMA Nazi, like the Seinfeld soup Nazi. No money for you.
Oh, I would enjoy that so much. I could also do it like Oprah when she would give away the gifts at the end of the show. No money for you, and no money for you, and no money for you, and no money for you.
You would enjoy that. But again, less time to be on a cruise ship.
That's true. And Randy, there's no new episodes on Saturday or Sunday, but if you want to listen to us over the weekend, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. Do a Google on the YouTube. Get the KABC app. Get the KSFO app. So many different ways for you to, even though it's a Saturday or Sunday, if you really want to, pretend like it's a
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Look at this, 790 KABC welcomes Shucked, the Tony Award-winning musical comedy at the Hollywood Pantages Theater. I saw it the other night, laughed my butt off the entire time. It's playing now through September 7th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show on August 28th. Tickets furnished by the Hollywood Pantages Theater. Good luck dialing.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Here's an email titled SF COVID. It was a 2-year COVID drug party at all of these commandeered hotels in San Francisco, with owners expecting an easy paycheck, then watching their properties destroyed. I'm a mechanical contractor in San Francisco and witnessed it firsthand.
I believe every word of that email.
God bless you if you were the person in charge of the elevators.
Can you imagine? Let's go to Cheryl in Lake County. Cheryl, hello.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. These free hotels, it's still going on in Lake County. So even though they're not getting grants from FEMA, grants are coming in to North Coast Opportunities, who has the New Digs program. And my relative stayed in a hotel for a year. That hotel had 12 units, and I checked in at the front desk, and they charge full price. You'd think there'd be a discount, but there isn't. And so I was doing all the calculations, and they were making, with their little 12 units, almost around $60,000. And when a tourist does come to town, our tourism has declined here. They're amongst all the homeless, so it's not too fun for them. And the way the program works is that they're supposed to, on their own, go find other housing, but it's very rare. We've had a lot of fires, and we're low on housing. But when they do, if they do find a house, they get their rent paid for a year, and some of their PG&E. And it's just really, really a sweet deal for the hotels. This hotel that my friend lived in, you could tell they shopped at, like, I've seen them in the secondhand stores and, different fixtures. And there's no cleaning service provided. They're on their own. They might give you towels if you went to them and said, when my friend was there, I went to them and said, can we change out the towels? And they're like, okay. But it's a real sweet deal for the owners. And most of them are Muslims, so I feel that most of the money is leaving our country. It's a real bad system.
All right. Well, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
It's almost like, and we've seen this with a lot of the affordable housing, rent control housing, and with all this homeless housing, is like it's government-sponsored slums.
Let's go to Mike in Vallejo. Mike, hello.
Johnny, Randy, my favorite radio show. I'm so glad you guys came up here, man. It's a breath of fresh air, I got to tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, say, listen, so yesterday toward the end of your show, you touched on the Bed Bath & Beyond and Newsom's, unacceptable response to their quarrel with coming back to California. After you did that, I Googled it real quick, or grokked it, whatever you want to call it. And I just asked the question, how many closures, business closed or went bankrupt in California from March of 2020 till now? It was 17,200. So for this guy to sit there and make a joke out about their bankruptcy is just not acceptable. It goes to show, quite frankly, how difficult it is to do business in the state.
I believe those numbers. Thank you for the call, sir.
Quite frankly.
Let's go to Craig in Lake Forest. Craig, hello.
Hi. First of all, love your show, guys. I think we're approaching the whole homeless issue in the wrong manner. It's a multifaceted issue, but we hit and pick at it. In other words, this called the homeless industrial complex. Each have their own little specialties. I'm going to feed the homeless, or I'm going to clothe the homeless, or I'm going to try to find a house for the homeless. What we really need to do is identify the fact that, hey, this is not right. We need to put all these people together and address their needs in a more holistic type of manner. Now, what does that mean? That means definitely incarceration, but not behind bars. I don't think we don't win anything by putting people behind bars. And, we'll have one side of the political spectrum saying, oh, look how bad we are to the poor. The other side saying, well, we need to lock more up. What we really need to do is address the fact that these are human beings and they need to have individual type of treatments. Now, what does that mean? We don't have a place like that right now. We have to build it. I suggest that we build something called Methopolis, for a better term.
Methopolis?
Build a city. I like Methopolis.
Is there hero super meth?
But it didn't quite ring. That could be. But we actually build a community. And this community is a place, you should have it, the central piece of that is the hospital, the mental health hospital, and drug rehabilitation hospital. But it has all the other features of the community. You'll have police station, but because these people are not there because they want to be, but because they have to be, it is an incarceration. It means we do have to feed them. So we'll have to build a food hall. We'll have to build some of these other places. But now the housing issue, you know what? They're living on the streets in tents. When we take them off the streets and we take them to Methopolis, I say we give them a brand new tent. They go in and we build a city with nothing but facades with a wide front sidewalks in front of it, and they can choose any place they want to.
Okay, now I got a question. If you are building Methopolis and you have all of the features that any city would offer, what would you do about the fire department? Because 99% of Methopolis would be on fire at all times.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why you don't build the buildings, you build facades, because it's going to be easier to do. That's a recognition of a problem. And you do have to have a fire department there.
You have to have probably 5 or 6 of them.
And you have to have police, believe it or not. But I think it looks as it's an institutional setting. Okay, but
here's another theory, sir. If there was a town called Methopolis, is that where the Raiders would move to next?
Yes, you'd have to have an ankle bracelet only.
All right. Thank you for the call. Maybe Hunter Biden could be the mayor.
This audience, always creative. Methopolis. McIntyre used to call this idea Bumsylvania. Send them all out to Yermo.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're keeping an eye on the mailbag.
Carl writes in at johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. Subject line Methopolis. Guys, this idea already exists. It's called Slab City in California, and luckily we don't even have to use our taxpayer dollars to build it because it's already there.
Didn't Huell Hauser do an episode there once?
Well, yes. Yes, he did.
Howdy. Good morning. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Well, tell us about Slab City. We're hanging out here today.
Wow. I've never seen anyone tie off a vein that fast. Were you a Boy Scout?
Now, this is from many years ago when it was just RV people living off the grid. I think this is Slab City pre-meth.
I think it's wonderful. This is our 8th year out here. We keep saying we're going someplace else, and we never do. We come right back.
Why do you keep coming back?
It's beautiful. It's lovely.
That guy was in a pickup truck with a button-down shirt, and not one button was buttoned.
Oh, yeah.
Now, some people live in buses, others live in trailers.
Campers, some in tents. But people starting to leave now, so we're not as thickly populated as we were. January and February is the biggest month out here.
If you got some free time tonight, just do a Google on the YouTube, Huell Hauser, Slab City, California.
No one is going to get any sleep all weekend long. They're going to be going down that Huell Hauser rabbit hole now.
The man was a treasure.
All right, let's go back to Leanne Melendez's report.
This is on San Francisco getting stuck with the bill that they thought FEMA was going to pay for shoving all the bums in hotel rooms during COVID.
There were other COVID-related expenses that added another $80 million to the city's costs.
Any guesses?
Email us your guesses at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
And let's not forget that San Francisco had already spent millions in settlements to hotels that were damaged.
Can you imagine what that list must look like? How many holes the size of human heads do you think were put in those walls?
How many sinks were completely ripped out from the setting?
How many mattresses just disappeared?
For the shelter-in-place programs, damage costs alone ended up exceeding $60 million.
So it was $400 million just to house 3,000 bums, and then another $60 million based on all the damage that they caused to those hotels that apparently we were on the hook for, even though we were paying full freight for these hotel rooms.
I have stayed at a ton of hotels in my life. I don't think I've ever damaged anything in any hotel.
The Hotel Whitcomb on Market Street received the most money, $19.5 million in a settlement. The hotel with 400 rooms has never reopened. So where does San Francisco...
Could you imagine what it must look like in there?
I mean, the owners figured, well, we just got $20 million. Let's get out of Dodge.
Smart man.
The hotel with 4...
I mean, right now San Francisco is bouncing back, but in 2022, 2023, that was probably your best option.
The hotel with 400 rooms has never reopened. So where does San Francisco stand in its attempt to recover that money? Under the Biden administration, San Francisco was reimbursed $148 million with the expectation that the rest would come later.
Nope.
No money for you.
FEMA has been a very big disappointment. They cost a tremendous amount of money.
FEMA, under the Trump administration, is now telling San Francisco the city was really only eligible to receive $7 million.
Which means they probably have money to pay back.
They were eligible for $7 million, and they spent $400 million. Again, to put 3,000 people in hotels.
What could go wrong?
In fact, they are now suggesting that most of the reimbursement made by the Biden administration should be returned.
Uh-oh.
It's like that old Elvis Presley song, Return to Sender.
Congressional leaders from California have signed a letter asking FEMA to reimburse cities. We contacted FEMA's Regional 9 office, which covers San Francisco, but after 8 days, we got tired of waiting for a response. That office is located at 1111 Broadway in Oakland on the 12th floor.
I have contacted FEMA.
We went in person, but were stopped by security.
We're doing a story on the fact that FEMA owes San Francisco millions of dollars in reimbursement.
This is not open for the public, ma'am.
You can't go to the FEMA office in Oakland?
Okay. In FEMA's defense, no one at the field office in Oakland is making any decisions. Those decisions are being made in Washington.
This is not open for the public, ma'am.
Why?
We're not open. I cannot answer any of those questions.
Okay, but it's a government agency.
Call that number that is there, listed right there, and ask them all those questions.
Okay, thank you. So you're not letting us go up.
For now, San Francisco is
I love that they told her to call Rez.
For now, San Francisco is following protocol by going through the FEMA appeals process.
Our hope is that we can work things out, but if not, we'll be forced to look at all legal options.
Including suing?
We'll see what happens.
Well, first, let me say this.
Mayor Daniel Lurie has been cautious when criticizing President Trump in the past, even though the money FEMA owes San Francisco could have covered a big chunk of the city's $800 million budget deficit. Randy Shaw.
Well, instead, he ended up cutting a whole bunch of nonprofits, and good for him.
Well, he understands that this is totally ridiculous. How can you go to Donald Trump and ask him for this money with a straight face?
Randy Shaw doesn't believe San Francisco will ever see that money.
This is the guy in charge of the Tenderloin Housing Clinic, which to date has had the most overdose deaths of any other housing in San Francisco.
Wow. It's hard to believe that's true without Barbara Ferrer being in charge.
If the Biden administration wasn't going to fund San Francisco's FEMA debt, why do they think the Trump administration will?
And President Trump has said he wants to phase out FEMA after the 2025 hurricane season, which runs from June through November. Now, he may be changing his mind as of late, but President Trump is suggesting that any funds would come directly from the president's office rather than FEMA itself. Now, Trump has told states to expect less federal funding.
In the meantime, we've got this big bill.
Right. And, you know, the city, the mayor and his press people told me that it would be nice to get that money, but they're not even counting on it.
Right.
No. So we'll see.
Thanks, Liam.
So there you go. It looks like San Francisco is stuck with this $400 million bill that they use to house 3,300 homeless people in hotels during COVID.
They were the dummies that decided to do this. Don't blame the federal government for not indulging your ridiculousness. They thought because there would be a Democrat from California in the White House, out of partisan loyalty, they would get the money. And they bet on the losing horse. And when you bet on the losing horse, there's no winner's purse for you.